I wanna take all, make me who I wanna be, but it's all break me down to my elements, shaking out my irrelevance and rising me.
What changed it for me, how basically the crossroad, the thing that changed for me was supernatural. It was something that, you hear people say different things. My belief in God and the devil was all Easter bunnies and Santa Claus. I just really didn't believe until it was actually, I had an episode where the devil came to me and actually told me, and this was, I was sober, I wasn't high, but it was a very supernatural experience to where the only way I can explain it was like I had a lead blanket thrown over me and holding me down, and I couldn't get up, and I was in my room, and it was the most terrifying thing that ever happened to me. And up until that point, I didn't care about anything. I mean, things would happen. I was so emotionally detached. And all of a sudden, God and the devil was real. This wasn't a fairy tale. This wasn't the Easter bunny. And the devil was there to get me. And that's when I realized, you're going to hell. You're going to hell. This is, heaven and hell is real, and you're headed for hell. And it was the devil showing me how real hell was. And so this episode happened, and I didn't know how to pray. I didn't know what to do. The next day, I wound up calling an aunt and talking to her, and she explained everything and how to pray and just steps to take and things to do. But the actual crossroad, the thing that really changed from that moment where you just have a defining moment, was when I got baptized. I went, and I'd been baptized as a little kid, and when I got baptized as an adult, it's like I had scales taken off my eyes. I can't even explain. I remember coming up out of the water, and it's like I could feel things being torn out of my chest practically. And as I walked outside, the sky was so blue and the grass was so green, it like hurt my eyes. It's like I'd never seen this before. And from that moment forward, the reality of God and the devil, and when I came up out of that water and being baptized, until that point I struggled off and on, struggled off and on. The struggle never stops. I mean, I was a coke addict, for years after quitting. I could be walking down a hallway, and it's like somebody would blow a big bass hit right in my face. It would be just like the devil tempted me. How strong are you? Where are you at right now? And that never stops. That never changes, as far as he's always going to throw something in front of you, whether it's drugs, whether it's women, whether it's whatever. But, you just have to make up your mind, and it's a fight. And for me, my fight really began after I was baptized. That's when I realized that the side that I wanted to be on, the fight that it was, that heaven and hell was real. And, I had done so much bad and so much wrong early in my life that now I wanted to do so much good. And I was going to heaven, and I wanted to take as many people with me as I could. And, that's it. That's where I'm at right now.
I felt completely burnt out on the lifestyle I was doing. I got tired of going to the bars. I knew that there was something out there that was better for me than turning to the alcohol, something that would fill that hole of loneliness and would take away the guilt and shame. And I had this vision one day of God just looking over me as I'm hitting the bars and as I'm sitting there drinking and just weeping in tears, because he was there the whole entire time watching me. And for him, as my father, I just felt, oh my gosh, that has to break his heart every time I step through these doors. Every time I sit down and drink this alcohol, that it's breaking his heart, because he gave his life for me and I'm doing this in return. And that just hit me really hard. So I made that decision, and I prayed a prayer, because all of my friends that surrounded me did the same thing. They were in the bars, they were searching for something that they couldn't find, but I was the lucky one who found that, and I knew that God was the answer. So I had to pray a prayer, and it was a complete prayer of faith. And I asked God into my life, and I asked him to be my savior, but I also prayed another important prayer of asking God to remove all the people in my life that weren't supposed to be here. And instantly, overnight, everyone just disappeared. No one called me, no one contacted me. And I know that if God hadn't have answered that prayer, that if people would have kept calling me, it would have sucked me back in. So that was huge for me, that God answered that prayer, and I was able to take that step of faith and change my life for the good. So to me, the cross means forgiveness. He took my guilt and my shame away. He just reboosted me with new life, new energy, and showed me what the truth is, and that the path that I was on was a path of destruction, and now I'm on a path of truth and life. And it's been just overwhelming, just the new journey that I'm on, and it's been amazing that God has just swept everything in my past, and now I'm just in a new life.
As I was sitting in my car, you know, just getting high and wanting to die and ready to die, I had my cell phone in there, and it kept noticing that it kept ringing and ringing and ringing. And I was like, who is calling me? And I kept looking, and it was my best friend. And she's very persistent, and so she kept calling me and calling me and calling me. I knew she wasn't going to hang up, so I answered it. Like, she's like, where are you? I'm at your house. Come on, are you ready to go? And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, you promised me that you would go with me to this church event. And I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. And so there's no way of getting out of it. So I went to this church event, and I hadn't been in a church for like 10 years. And I was a little leery about going. It was some kind of women's event. And so I remember I went with her, and they started singing some worship songs, and I just remember one worship song was talking about God and how He's your strength and how He'll carry you. And I remember I just started crying, and I had no idea why I was crying, and I just was overwhelmed. And that night began this like 6-month process of me kind of going to church, kind of not going to church, still getting high, still struggling with addiction, still struggling with the depression, but still like I had another opportunity placed in front of me to get help and to make my life better. And so it was in March of 2006. My friend again, she's like, you're going to a women's retreat. And I was like, I don't want to go to a women's retreat. And pretty much she's like, well, if I'm going to pay for it, and you're going no matter what you say, I'll drag you to it. And I know that she would probably hold her word to that, because she's a lot tougher than I am. But so I remember going to this women's retreat, and I went, and got high, I remember, and I was like thinking in the back of my mind, this might be the last time. And in this women's retreat, they had different speakers, and they talked about the love of God, and the one was the cross, and that was it. They showed a clip from the movie of the Passion of the Christ, and they showed the part of the crucifixion and the beating that Jesus took, and his back being whipped over and over and over, and the blood coming from him, and the crown of thorns placed in his head, and then him being hung on the cross. And even though it was a movie, it really spoke to me. And I remember the pastor speaking and saying that no matter how worthless you feel, no matter what you've done or who you are or who you've become, Jesus is taking on that sin, that shame, the guilt, everything. He's taking that onto the cross for you. And it's hard to explain. That moment I felt for the first time a sense of hope and love and peace, and knowing that if I just believed in Him, that I could get over this, and that I could overcome, and I can become the person He's meant for me to be. I can regain my life back. I could get my happiness back. And so that was when I knew, like, the cross is where I came to, and it changed my life forever. And I can't explain it, and it just knowing that this man died for me, and if I was the only person in the entire world that needed someone to lay his life down for, that He still would do it. He would still take on that beating. He would still die. He would still bleed to death for me.
I wanna take hold, make me who I wanna be, but it's all break me down to my elements.